Hello, hello. Today I am running through my top tier BookTok books. The only reason I ever picked up these books is because I saw them on BookTok or BookTube. These books make me so thankful for the book community online. Otherwise, I would never know these stories, which is crazy. I'm not really going to go in any specific order, but I am going to start with books that I don't have physically, and then we can go into this giant stack that I have next to me of the physical books that I have. Let's just get right into it. The very first book that I want to talk about today is That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. This is actually a YA thriller, which honestly going into this, I had heard good things, but my expectations were low. Let's just say that. For me, sometimes YA books really hit, and other times they really do not hit. And I can't connect with them because they feel too young for me. So it's really hit or miss for YA with me. To give a brief synopsis of this high school girl goes missing, and the last person that she was seen with was her boyfriend. And so the town thinks that he unalived her, essentially, and even the police do, even though there's actually no evidence to prove that he did this. So him and his friends take it upon themselves to go out and find his girlfriend themselves. We're also following this young girl's POV who woke up in the woods and she has no idea who she is. She goes to the police station and tells them her ordeal when a man shows up claiming that he is her father, and he ends up taking her home back to his cabin. So we're following that POV, and we're following the POV of the boy whose girlfriend is missing. This is worth the read, especially if you're looking for something that's very fast-paced or maybe even like a palate cleanser. This is full of suspense. I was on the edge of my seat for the majority of this book, which is exactly how I need my thrillers to be. If I'm not on the edge of my seat, essentially 75% of the time, I don't want it. So yes, we're following high school kids, but it was still so exciting and gripping. Highly suggest this, even if you're not into YA. Next, let's talk about Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is sci-fi, and I will say right off the bat that I had a hard time getting into this. And my reasoning is because there is a lot of science talk in this one. Andy Weir really does break it down in a way that is understandable to an extent, but me personally, I am not a science person whatsoever. So even if it is broken down, I struggle with it. Science was one of my least favorite subjects in school, but that is not making it sound like this is a good book. This was so good, exquisite. The story, the characters, oh my goodness, I loved it. So in summary, not a big fan of the science-y part, but a very big fan of the story and the characters. Basically, in this story, we have these, I don't even know what they are. Again, science, not my thing, but basically these little something or other, they're eating our sun, and we only have a few years left until these things eat the whole entire sun. So the science world is trying to figure out how to stop these things, and so they have to send someone up to try and figure out how to stop these things. And they end up sending up this professor who didn't even want to go up in the first place and is basically drugged and put into a rocket ship, and before he knows it, he wakes up in space. It's crazy, but he is super smart, so he just is fine with it, I guess, to an extent. So we're following him along his adventure in space alone. This will get your heart racing, but also at the same time, it's weirdly heartwarming. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, you should definitely pick it up. I've actually heard that the audiobook is very good. And I actually wonder if I would have liked this book more if I had picked it up on audio too. So if you're not a science person like me, maybe try the audiobook, because even though there's science, it's worth the read. It is worth the read. Next up is James by Percival Everett. This is a historical fiction. It is a retelling of Huckleberry Finn, but we are getting it from the perspective of Jim, the slave. Not going to lie, I was a little bit weary going into this because, first of all, I did read Huck Finn in high school, but I didn't remember anything, not a single plot point about it. And I was also scared for some reason, I don't know why, I was scared that it was going to be slow. When it comes to historical fiction, sometimes I have that mindset, which is so weird because historical fiction is one of my top favorite genres. So you would think that like I wouldn't have that mindset around it, but I do. But this was so fast paced. I literally could not even believe it. And I highly suggest the audiobook of this. The narrator is absolutely amazing and really brings the story to life. So again, you don't need to read Huck Finn to read this. I personally cannot remember anything about Huck Finn, like I said, so I don't know if James is following like exactly the same timeline as Huck Finn. It kind of makes me want to read Huck Finn just to see. But either way, even if it doesn't follow the same exact things that happen in Huck Finn, this story is so freaking good. The ending is such a bang too. Oh my gosh. I think it's actually the most fast-paced historical fiction I've ever read. The last book that I want to talk about that I don't have physically is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is a thriller. We're following this husband and this wife whose marriage is really going downhill, and the wife ends up winning this like weird getaway thing, but the getaway is literally in the middle of the woods in a random church, and it's like literally a blizzard, and there's like barely even any roads or anything. So that's a little weird, huh? They go on this getaway situation and they're like, okay, this getaway is going to fix our marriage. And if this getaway doesn't fix our marriage, then we're just going to get a divorce. And once they get there, they get completely snowed in and some very freaky and unexplained things start to happen. So in this, we are getting multiple POVs. I can't remember what the POVs are though. I think it's just the husband and the wife. And we are going back and forth in time. So maybe we're not getting multiple POVs. I read this a while ago, if you can't tell. I think we might just be going back and forth in time. And I will say that was the one thing that I did not enjoy. I do see how it helped the story and it was kind of a necessary part of the story. When we went back in time, at some points I was bored, but when we were in the present timeline, I was like heart pumping. What is gonna happen? This is insane and so spooky. This is in my top 5 favorite thrillers of all time. So yeah, definitely suggest this for the winter time because like it's very obviously winter because they're snowed in during a blizzard, but oh, so spooky, so good. All right, let's dive into the physical books that I have. First up, let's talk a little bit about Emily Henry. I haven't read her whole entire backlist. I still need to read Book Lovers and Great Big Beautiful Life, and then everything that came before her like most well-known books. I haven't read those either yet, but from her backlist of like her most popular books, like her BookTok books, my 2 favorite books are Funny Story and People We Meet on Vacation. I know, people don't normally like this one. Obviously, these are both contemporary romances and 2 of my favorite romances in general of all time. In Funny Story, we're following our 2 characters who, in short, just got broken up with and they're living together and they kind of have like a fake dating situation that happens. And yeah, I love these characters. Let's just talk about one at a time. Like, what am I doing? I can't describe these at the same time. This one I loved so much because the MMC felt very realistic. He was realistic, but at the same time, like no man in the world is like an Emily Henry man. So like, let's be real. But like, he was very down to earth and like laid back. And I just really enjoyed that about him. I really liked the female main character also. This is definitely like one of my top favorite book couples ever. I love them. And then obviously People We Meet on Vacation is about 2 best friends who go on a vacation in a different spot in the world every single year until one year they have a falling out and they stop going on vacations together and they also stop talking to each other altogether. And then one day the female main character picks up her phone and texts the male main character and is like, why did we have a falling out? Like, let's try to go on vacation again. This is my all-time favorite Emily Henry book. And it's funny because if you know BookTok, you know that I think most people's least favorite Emily Henry book is this book. I will say that Poppy, the main girl, is not my favorite character of all time. I love the MMC in this book, Alex, and I just felt like this was such a fun time. Emily Henry, if you haven't read any of her books, is very good at putting you in the book, like putting you in the location. So like going on all of these vacations with them and like really feeling like you're there. Not to mention this is friends to lovers, and that's my absolute favorite romance trope. I wish that that trope would happen to me in real life. I've heard a lot of people say they're not into this one because it goes back and forth between timelines, but I really enjoyed that and I really thought that it gave it depth. Next up, we have the one, the only Legend Born by Tracy Dion. If you've been here a while, you know that I talk about this book all the time on TikTok and on BookTube. This is YA fantasy. But I'm just going to say right now, this does not feel YA. Yes, we are dealing with high school main characters, but the world building and the magic system and the concepts in this book feel very mature. We're following Bree Matthews, and her mother passes away in a car accident. She ends up going to this college program. She witnesses this like crazy magical attack that these group of kids are basically fighting in. And so she's determined to figure out who these kids are, and she realizes they're part of Legend Born, which is a secret society based around the Knights of the Round Table. She also thinks that the Legend Born secret society maybe had something to do with her mom's death as well. Like I said before, this is YA, but it does not feel like YA when you're reading it. The only thing that feels YA is maybe the characters. Their character arcs are definitely like the character arcs of a teenager, you know, like the typical kind of like angsty type of teenager stuff. But otherwise, this is such a good series. If you didn't know, this was my favorite book. This and the second book were my two favorite books of 2024, like topping everything that I read. I think I read like around 50 something books, maybe more. I can't even remember, in 2024, and this was right at the top with the second one. Like I said, the magic system is very complex for a YA fantasy, actually to the point where like I had to slow my reading down and like really think about what was going on. But I actually liked that, and I was just so impressed. I'm just so impressed by this series. There are 3 books out right now. There is a 4th one coming. I don't know when, but highly recommend picking this up if you're into like, especially if you're into like urban fantasy. Next up, we have My Heart and Soul, Beartown by Frederick Bachman. And not just Beartown, but the whole trilogy. Beartown, Us Against You, and The Winners. I have not read The Winners yet. I'm scared. Very scared to be very emotionally devastated, but I am going to get to that this year. I would say this is general fiction. Oh my God. I kind of feel like I need caffeine right now. We just got back from DC for World Pride, and it's going to take me so long to catch back up on sleep and my life. I digress. We're following a small town in, I believe, Sweden. I'm not sure that it says, but I believe we're in Sweden. And this town is basically run by hockey. Yes, obviously they all love hockey, but it's so important for their economy too. The town that is neighboring Beartown is like almost like taking over and like really sucking Beartown's economy dry. So it is almost essential that Beartown hockey wins. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I don't like sports. I'm not a sports girl. I don't read sports romances. I don't have any interest. I don't have any interest at all in sports. Somehow, Frederick Bachman made me care about hockey. How? I was going to say I don't know, but I do know. He got me so invested in these characters. This is kind of like multi-POV, but we're not starting each chapter in a new POV. We're just kind of like fluidly going throughout people in the town. We're going through team members, we're going through people in the high school, we're going through just town folks, we're going through business managers, we're going through politicians, we're seeing every side to this town. This man writes like no other person. He is my favorite writer of all time. I swear to God, this man can like pull a concept out of my brain that I have no words for and put it down on paper in a way that explains it so well and like so basically. Like he literally just like writes the most like basic sentence, but it's so profound. That is just Frederick Bachman. He is profound to me. And yeah, he made me care about hockey. Don't have any quotes in Beartown, but I want to read you guys a quote just to show you what this man writes like. I read Beartown from my library, so I didn't annotate it, and then I bought it, so I haven't annotated it yet. I will reread it at some point and annotate it, but I have Us Against You that I bought and I annotated so much. Let me see if I can just find something. Even going through these quotes right now, you guys, I literally am getting chills all over my body and like tears are coming to my eyes. This man has literally changed my life. We're a small community in the forest. People say that no roads lead here, just past. The economy coughs every time it takes a deep breath. The factory cuts its workforce each year like a child that thinks no one will notice the cake in the fridge getting smaller if you take a little bit from each side. She's seen depressed adults do the same thing, keep moving, exercising, and cleaning and renovating their summer cottages, finding things that force them to get up in the morning, plants to be watered, errands to be run, anything so they don't have to think about how they'll feel. As if we hope that physical activity, tiny everyday rituals might lull the anxiety to sleep. I don't know. Those aren't even like the best quotes, you guys, but like, Peter is standing with 2 sticks in one hand and a tennis ball in the other. Leo used to drive him crazy, asking him to go and play in the driveway. Dad, can you move the car? Dad, can we play? Dad, just a little while. First to 5 goals. Peter would be sitting with the remote in his hand, watching a recording of a game or struggling with a stack of files and a pocket calculator, working on the budget, and would reply, "You need to do your homework first." After his homework was done, it was too late. "Tomorrow," the father would promise. "Okay," the son would reply. Men are busy, but boys don't stop growing. Sons want their father's attention until the precise moment when fathers want their sons. From then on, we're all doomed to wish that we'd fallen asleep beside them more often, while their head could still fit on our chest. That we'd spent more time sitting on the floor while they were playing, hugged them while they would still let us. Peter knocks on Leo's door now, and the 12-year-old replies without opening it, "I've moved the car out of the driveway," the father says hopefully. "Oh? Yes, I thought maybe you'd might like a game?" He's clutched the tennis ball so hard that the sweat from his hand is leaving marks in the green fabric covering. Leo's reply is merciless. "I have to do my homework, Dad. Tomorrow, maybe." If you're a parent, that hits so hard. I'm literally, okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. My legs are covered in goosebumps for doing that. Next up, we have Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is YA dystopian. I actually just read this recently, like 2 weeks ago. We're in a dystopian world where nobody can die from literally anything, and the only way to die is by scythe. And scythe are basically people that go around and kill people. That's their job. That's what they do for population control. And we're following Citra and Rowan, who are 2 apprentices to a scythe. So they are learning how to become a scythe. But in the end, the scythe can only pick one of them. So they are kind of like besties, but at the same time, they're like fighting against each other. I found that the beginning of the book was a little bit slow, but once I hit the middle, stuff started hitting the fan, you guys, like seriously. And there was like multiple plot twists and stuff. I've only read this one. It is a trilogy, so I'm very excited to pick up the next one. Again with the YA. Maybe I like YA more than I actually know. I really enjoyed all of the characters in this one, and again, the plot twists were just so good. Next up is a series. I only have the last book in the series. I still need to get the first 2, but that's the Part of Your World series by Abby Jimenez. So Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Just for the Summer is my favorite one. If I had to rank them, Just for the Summer would be my favorite, and then Part of Your World, and then Yours Truly. But all 3 of them are so good. 4 stars and above. For time's sake, I'll just talk about Just for the Summer, but just know the rest of this series is also on the list. In this, we're following Emma and Justin. Justin posts on Reddit that every time he breaks up with someone, they end up finding the love of their life after their breakup. Emma sees this on Reddit and the same thing happens to her. So they think that if they can get together just for the summer and then break up, that they will end up finding the loves of their life after their breakup and essentially break this curse. I love Abby Jimenez because her romances feel, you know, like the typical, like fluffy-ish kind of romance, but there are heavy topics thrown in throughout her books. Heavy, but also real, like so real. And obviously Just for the Summer is no exception to that. I still need to read all of her backlist and her new book, Say You'll Remember Me, but Abby Jimenez is my favorite romance author. I have read more Emily Henry than Abby Jimenez, but I have loved every single Abby Jimenez that I've read. Not saying I didn't like the Emily Henry books I read too, but I liked Abby Jimenez's books more than some of Emily Henry's. If you haven't hopped on the Abby Jimenez bandwagon, I highly suggest doing that. Next up, we have The Night and Gale by Kristen Hanna. This is a big one that I feel like a lot of people have been getting into lately. This is historical fiction. It's a big boy. We are in Nazi-occupied France in the 1940s during World War II. We're following two sisters, one who is kind of just trying to lay low and basically stay out of the Nazis' way and kind of just try and be invisible because she has a kid and she just is trying to be invisible, essentially. And then we have the other sister who is like, I'm literally going to fight some Nazis. So it's dual POV. We get the perspective of both of the sisters. It is heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, traumatizing. Just, it's crazy. It's a wild ride. I would definitely look up trigger warnings. I am not generally a person that looks up triggers, but in a way, I kind of wish that I had for this one. I don't know. I'm just not a person that looks up trigger warnings because I almost feel like it's kind of like a spoiler. Like if I had known the triggers in this, I still probably would have read it. I just would have been prepared. But if you are a person that looks up trigger warnings, I definitely suggest this one because for me, there was triggering stuff in here. Things that I don't personally like to read about. But it's also very harrowing. Oh my gosh. It's a beautiful, tragic story. Next up, we have The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping. Both of these books are prequels to the original Hunger Games trilogy. This one came out 2 years ago, I believe. Sorry, I didn't mean to flip you off there. And Sunrise on the Reaping just came out this year. We're following President Snow's backstory in Ballad of Songbirds, and we're following Haymitch's backstory in Sunrise on the Reaping. This is YA dystopian, if you didn't already know. Highly suggest reading the original Hunger Games trilogy first. Even though these are prequels, I would still 100% read the original trilogy first, then go into Ballad, then go into Sunrise on the Reaping. I really enjoyed both of these. I actually enjoyed Ballad more than Sunrise. I still did really like Sunrise, but something about Ballad, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. You can see the size difference in these. Obviously, like Ballad is a lot thicker than Sunrise, and I almost wish that there was more to Sunrise. I think that's really the only complaint that I have about Sunrise on the Reaping is that I just wish there was more, because Haymitch is like my favorite character, like one of my favorite characters from the original trilogy, so I just wanted more so badly. These are definitely worth your time, and The Hunger Games too obviously is worth your time. I don't know if those would be considered BookTok books. These ones definitely are, but the Hunger Games trilogy obviously came out before BookTok was a thing. If you've read the original trilogy, these ones are 100% worth your time. Definitely pick these up. And if you haven't read the original trilogy, I beg you, what are you doing? You need to read this series. Next, we have Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. This one's kind of like a low-key BookTok book. Like, I do see people talking about it, but it deserves so much more hype. In this, we're following Tasana. She actually escapes slavery and she heads to the Orders, which is this organization that she thinks basically can help her to go back to her home country and free the rest of the slaves that she left behind. But the order turns out to be a lot more sinister than she expected, and essentially says that they will help her out, but in turn they're also using her. This is a romantasy, so there is, I don't know what like the difference is, like fantasy with romance, romance with fantasy, romantasy. I don't know what the difference is, but what I can tell you is the romance of this is a part of the plot, but it is not the main forefront, which is what I enjoy most. So the orders essentially puts Tasana with this guy who is a part of the orders, but he doesn't want to be anymore, and he's grumpy and doesn't want to take her on as an apprentice, but they essentially force him to, and a little romance blooms. My favorite of the trilogy, actually, I think is Children of Fallen Gods, which is the second book. The last one is also very good too, though. I think they just progressively get better and better as you go through the series. If you want like badass women, this is the book for you. As we know, I am in the middle of reading Throne of Glass. I'm only on Crown of Midnight, which is the third book, so I don't know everything there is to know about Throne of Glass, but people on BookTok say that this gives Throne of Glass vibes, so if you like Throne of Glass, give this a try for sure. Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This I can say for sure is romance with fantasy. This is mostly romance with kind of like some magical realism, fantasy plot points like on the side, like a sub plot of fantasy. We're following Roman and Iris. The fantasy subplot is that these two gods are having a war with each other. Our main female character's brother ends up going off to war. Our two main characters are actually rival journalists. There is a spot open for some job, I'm not sure, and they're both up for the job. They're workplace rivals, essentially. Iris misses her brother. She takes out his old typewriter and writes him a letter, and she ends up putting it under her wardrobe. And the next morning, the letter is gone and there is a different letter in its place. And she realizes that her typewriter is magical, and she is corresponding with someone who she thought was going to be her brother, but is not her brother. Come to find out that Roman, the MMC, has the twin typewriter, and he is writing back to her, and both of them end up being war correspondents, so they are like in the middle of the war and just, you know, writing love letters back and forth to each other. This is very sweet, very wholesome. I would consider the first one, this is a duology, so we have Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. This one is very romance heavy. The second one is very fantasy plot heavy. So they kind of like switch. For me, Divine Rivals feels like a cozy romance, like a cozy fantasy romance. Yes, there is war happening and there is like some intense things that happen, but like the vibes of this is just very cozy. I really, really enjoyed this one. I liked Ruthless Vows even more because of the fact that I am more of like a fantasy plot heavy girly. Like I would rather it be like mostly fantasy with a little bit of romance. So I think that's why I like the second one more, but this one is still so sweet and so wholesome and cute. And last but not least, a little controversial in the online book world because people are so split on whether or not this book is good or not, but Forthwing by Rebecca Yarros. This was the first fantasy book that I ever read as an adult. Obviously, I read fantasy as a kid, but I don't think that I'm biased. The setting of this book is at essentially a war college, and you can go into basically different sectors of the war college once you reach a certain age, and our main character ends up in the Riders Quadrant, which is where the Dragon Riders train and become Dragon Riders. This is romantasy, I believe. I don't know. But for me, again, this book is very fantasy and plot heavy, and the romance is there and it's like a big part of it, but I feel like it's kind of like 60-40. I really do feel like this series in general is really just like 60% fantasy. It's like intense fantasy in my opinion too. I think like there's intense world building. There's a lot of like obviously war and like training to be a badass essentially, and dragons, and then you have like 40% a romance plot. These get a bad rep for being like super smutty. There's probably like 2 or 3 smut scenes in this, you guys, like, and it's like a bigger book and the words are small. Like, I'm so sick of the book world saying that our fantasies are just like cute little romance fantasies. Like, no, this is about a badass dragon rider. I don't know. I just don't like that, you guys. When like literally 5% or less of this is smut, people obsess about the smut in this because it's good. It's not because it's on every single page. It's because it's good. Anyways, that's my life. Thank you so much for listening. I say if you haven't read this yet, give it a try. I really do think you should give it a try, especially if you're a fantasy reader. This gets a bad rep, you guys, in my opinion. I absolutely need to know what BookTok books you are obsessed with in the comments, because obviously I also need recs. And I just love to know which BookTok books are worth it, because I have also read BookTok books that are not good, in my opinion. So yeah, I would just love to know what you guys liked. Also, have you guys read any of these books? What are your opinions on the books? Do you like them? Do you not like them? I will never turn down a respectful discussion in the comments, even if we have differing opinions. That's what life is about, guys. We're not all gonna like the same books. This was so much fun to film. I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, bye!